It's time for the AMA-FIM North American Road Race Championship, our fourth round of 9 for 2024. It's MotoAmerica Superbikes at Brainerd from Brainerd International Raceway right here in Minnesota. And Supersport is on deck, race number 2. And it is an interesting day because there's clouds overhead and, well, there's rain in the area, and who knows what's going to happen. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, Matthew Skolt's definitely the standout without question, even with skies looming overhead. He shattered the field yesterday and gave us our largest margin of victory in Supersport so far this year.
I really do think that this momentum started at Road America. When we left Barber, Matthew spoke about how Road America might be a difficult weekend for him. He was able to get 2 podiums out of there, and I think after that it relaxed him. And you look at these highlights from yesterday, Greg. It was Ty Scott getting the jump with his teammate Teague Hobbs, Corey Alexander following in tow. PJ Jacobsen was there in fourth. You see Matthew, he makes a double pass on both the Rahal riders going here into turn 3. He made pretty quick work of the next 2. You can see Ty Scott slip back to 4th. He goes under Teague Hobbs, and from this point, the number 11 was never going to be stopped. And PJ Jacobsen slid his way up into 2nd. This was a big moment for Ty Scott yesterday. One that, unfortunately, we've seen a couple times this year. Everybody goes through this. So this young man will get it turned around, no problem. But it was all about Matthew Skoltz, and right now, he is the big threat to PJ Jacobsen in this championship.
He certainly is, and for Skoltz, really talk about Brainerd International Raceway. Definitely Yamaha on the R6 has won here many times. But here's a look at the way this season is kind of shaped up. We started at Road Atlanta where PJ scored 50 to 29, and then it's been this whole back and forth situation, and we're at Brainerd after race number 1, and the difference is slender. So what's going to happen in this situation? That's what we're looking forward to, Jay. But as of this moment, the way that basically the race was run, the fact that we know that the Yamaha R6 just loves this place, it's going to be a difficult task for PJ to put the number 11 behind him.
It is. And, you know, I spoke to PJ earlier, and I'll get into that in the telecast, but they made some changes this morning. Didn't really prefer him. Where Matthew's killing it is Sector 2. His Sector 2 times right now, at times yesterday, were almost half a second quicker than the next best.
Boy, his tire looked good at the end of the race. But let's get to the third member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa, and find out what else is going on.
Talking Ty Scott after that big crash he had yesterday. I spoke with him this morning. He said he is feeling 100%. You can see his bike over my shoulder here. That's also back to 100% after some hard work by his M4 X-Star Suzuki team. Talking to Ty, though, it's his 4th DNF of the season, and in his own words, he feels kind of like his championship's hopes are dashed, being about 100 points out of the lead here. And while he didn't even make it halfway through yesterday's race, the strategy remains the same. He said, elbows out, I'm here to win races, not make friends. He's got nothing to lose.
Well, and that's really it. If you've kind of resigned yourself to say, hey, look, the championship at this point doesn't matter, then really, Jay, you transition your mindset to race wins, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And for him right now, we've seen him win races, and we know he can win races. He won at Road America, probably obviously the closest finish we ever saw at Road America. He went to do the Loudon Classic, did well there. Look, this sport, you have your ups and downs. You run high on the confidence, and you can run pretty low on it as well. He's got a great team around him that's been around for a long time. They'll make him comfortable, hopefully, and get him back up front, and he'll be winning races again.
And that is going to be the key. Definitely the confidence, especially around Brainerd International Raceway. And Jason, let's take a look at this track itself because it's relatively flat, but it's given us years of entertainment, and it is very challenging.
Yeah, Brainerd has had World Superbike races here back in the day, Greg. Turns 1 and 2 became infamous back then about how fast they are. Hard braking into 3. 4, 5, 6, between 4 and 5, you're going to see guys get set up and pass there. You get to that technical section when you get down there, Greg, to turn 7, 8, 9, all the way to turn 12. Turn 12 usually has a lot of action. We saw guys getting past between 12 and 13 also. And it is a fairly short run and a little bit off camber out of that last corner when you get down to getting to the finish line.
A lot of great passing opportunities, which creates awesome racing. Now this rider right here, Teague Hobbs from New Hampshire, he got his first podium of the year. He's looking to better that and increase his standing in the championship.
You can see on the screen, I can hear it right outside of the window. Supersport competitors are now waiting at pit exit for that red flag to turn to a green one so they can leave pit lane and get out on their sighting lap, which they're now able to do. Roger, we just heard there from Hannah, one of the things that Ty Scott said was that he's he's no longer going for a championship. He's here to win races and not make any friends. In terms of strategy, how does that change the way you race?
Well, he's just, he's not going to think about crashing. He's just going to go for it the whole race and, just throw caution to the wind. Right now, he doesn't have to worry about, I just need to collect 20 points or 16 points. He's just going out there and see if he can get the win, and almost like a win it or bend it attitude.
That's different to the strategy that he was talking about just as recently as on Friday, when he said it's not about having the fastest bike, it's about having a bike that I can race with. Now he's got to put his head down and prove that he's out here to be a part of this MotoAmerica paddock, and that he's, can still win races.
And that's the thing, Tyler, definitely, it's hard to take positives out of, four DNFs, but if there was one, it's that he's had the speed. So he's got it. It's just the mistakes, and he's considers himself out of the championship, which would be a tall order. He says he's only here for wins. Even if he thought the championship was hopeful, wins would be the only way he could get in it anyways.
Yeah, and that was another talking point that we've had since Friday, is just the championship, the competition level here in the Supersport Championship, how high it is this year. It's really forcing all of these riders to push themselves beyond what they've done in the past and finding the limits, and then unfortunately at times that means you go over it. But for a rider like T. Cobbs, he has certainly found that limit. He's found a little bit of extra, and now he has something to play with.
Yeah, he looked like a different rider in yesterday's race. Just super aggressive, comfortable, qualified well, practices have gone well. He's put a really complete weekend, and then you can just see each time now after every session, just looks like he's getting a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more aggressive. So we'll see today if he can't. Such a good ride yesterday. Let's see if he can back it up.
Yeah, he was able to finish on the podium yesterday and get enough points to put himself inside of the top 6 in terms of championship points, even though it's all coming down to P.J. Jacobsen and Matthew Skoltz. And this morning in the warm-up session, P.J. Jacobsen went out and was faster than everybody.
So PJ's got to feel pretty good, made some changes overnight, and even when we interviewed him, said, today's a new day, so he wants to go out there and use what he learned in yesterday's race. And, yesterday he said he was, early on might have used his tire a little bit, so he might have some different strategy today.
Yeah, he said he had to push way too hard to be able to stay up there, and that didn't pay off for him at the end because he didn't have anything left to fight with. As you see his teammate there, Kayla Yakov, they added the pink to the front of that bike. We definitely noticed. Thank you to everybody at Reha Ducati for that. We're going to send it back next door to Greg and Jason for Supersport.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
All right, so we're back at Brainerd International Raceway before the start of Supersport Race number 2. And it has been a very interesting day, Jason Pridmore, because we thought there was going to be sun in the sky. It's been cloud cover the entire time. And yesterday we saw some of the riders, JP, on the left side of the rear tire. There was a lot of wear on there.
Yep.
Dunlop was telling me because there wasn't enough heat in the track yesterday, if you didn't go fast enough to keep the heat in the tire, then it was kind of tearing.
Got it.
So there's been some adjustments for today, possibly tire choice different, as well as maybe some tire pressure adjustments. So we'll keep an eye on that, but it definitely affected quite a few people's drive. The other thing I'm looking for yesterday, Jay, is that we saw for P.J. Jacobsen at the beginning of the race, the number 15, he had a lot of movement in the rear end of the motorcycle, and I know that the team was working to try to resolve that issue to get him better drives out of the corner. But as we look at our starting grid, it's the same as it was yesterday. Tyler Scott with a 132.771, Skoltz and Teague Hobbs, your front row.
Corey Alexander, P.J. Jacobsen, that you talked about. Jake Lewis, who was right up there with those guys for the most part yesterday as well. Mesa, Kayla's in there in 8th. Max Van, Dave Anthony, Tamburini, and Blake Davis. Back to row number 5, Saltese, Gerardo, Owen Williams, Jarrett Nassini, Aiden Sneed, and Hayden Bickness. Then we have Torrin Collins, Bradley Ward, Riston Grigg, Enriquez, LaRoche, and Jake Vandal. Last couple rows, Greg, DeLeon, Ferguson, Oman, and Trotkoff.
So what's interesting about Brainerd International Raceway is the start. This is one of those few racetracks where it's not the most important thing. because even if you fall back a position or two, you have all of this drafting that you get, because you immediately go through turn 1 into the big sweeping turn 2, and it's really important to just be there on the brakes for turn number 3. 16 laps scheduled for race number 2 here at Brainerd International Raceway. As the pace car comes around the corner, that means we are ready to get ripping here as the revs are going to go up and that red light goes on. Let's see what our pole sitters got for the rest of the field. He got a good launch yesterday, and it looks like he got another one today.
Matthew Schultz did not get a good start here, did he?
Corey Alexander did.
Yeah.
He got a great launch, and he's behind the number 70. That's Ty Scott on that Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki. And there's Corey Alexander, and there goes Teague Hobbs up the inside to grab the spot from Corey Alexander. So now it's a pair of those Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzukis leading the way.
It's a lot like what we saw yesterday. You see Matthew Schultz already working on Corey. He's up to 3rd. And it looks like Jake Lewis also rode around the outside of Corey Alexander. So he gets that Altus GSXR 750, positions him in 4th. Man, Corey just kind of went backwards. He's been beat up a little bit here. You can see PJ's got by him as well as Mesa. So maybe keep an eye on that to see if there's either something wrong. But either way, Corey got a great start, was 2nd, is back to 7th now as he looks to go back up underneath Mesa. He's going to make that pass. So just got taken advantage of a little bit there. But it's a lot like it was yesterday with these two GSXR 750s from M4 out front.
It's track racing. Yamaha R6 of Matthew Schultz is the rider on the move, as well as the 15 of PJ Jacobson, the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel machine. They've been able to grab a couple of positions as Corey Alexander is just behind his teammate. So for Alexander, he's on that Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Roller Die and Forming. Same team, just different sponsor. So Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki's lead the way. The question is, when's Matthew Schultz going to start making some moves? There's really no urgency. It's a long way to go. But if Matthew feels like he has the pace, he's going to try to want to make some passes quickly and put the gap on the field like he did yesterday.
Yeah, he's faster here. He's going to get a double bike draft off both those in front of him. And I think for PJ, he's going to be keeping a close eye on what the 11 is up to. He's going to want to try to get by Jake Lewis as quickly as he can. Matthew's going to be setting up one of these GSXRs in front of him. Maybe as they get down to turn 3, you can see, you can really feel the draft. Teague Hobbs now is going to lead them into 3. And look at Matthew. He slides up underneath Ty Scott. Jake Lewis having a peek around the outside of the 70 as well. So Matthew right off the bat. Now this is where he was absolutely killing it yesterday when we started dropping into sector 2. I was watching it in 4 straight laps yesterday. Matthew went red in sector 2. So he just kept bettering his times all through this area. So he's going to be working on Teague. Talk to Teague a little bit before the start of this race. It looks like PJ's working on Jake Lewis. He's going to make that pass, Greg. There he goes. So 15 is through on 85. Teague Hobbs said he tried some stuff this morning, Greg, but ultimately went back to what he ran yesterday.
Jake Lewis is having a great start, but PJ understanding that he can get better drives than Jake Lewis just from the size difference. So just to put himself in position like he did and starts to accelerate, a great job. So the 79 Teague Hobbs leads the way, and there
That's a big pass.
goes another move from PJ Jacobson, surprising the number 70. And so that's the way it's going to be, Hannah.
Jake Lewis is really going to try hard not to lose touch with this group. He said this is the best that he has felt in the dry all season. He's got really good feel on the front, so it's giving him confidence into the corners on that front. He can match the roll speed of those front runners. He definitely thinks he has the pace to stay in it, but he knows it's going to be a challenge.
Boy, that was a great move there by Jake Lewis, who, like you're talking about, Hannah, you could tell he had a lot of confidence. He went up underneath Ty Scott in turn 12, was able to still get that bike turned back for 13, even though he was on a bit of a tighter line, and was able to hold Ty Scott off through turn 1. Ty's going to have a look as they come down into 3 as Matthew Schultz takes a shot at Teague Hobbs and gets through, and this isn't what any of these guys in front want to see. That's going to make PJ want to do something immediately here with Teague Hobbs. So I talked to PJ yesterday. I said, could you have gone with Matthew if you'd have gotten through sooner? And he just looked at me and said, I don't think I could have. He said that the R6 looks like it's handling really well. It's not even moving. It's accelerating well. And but you can see PJ, he's right on the back. And credit to Teague also, Greg. He's not letting Matthew get away through this section either.
Saw Teague earlier today. Congratulated him on his podium as he goes side by side. He didn't want to give that position up, but PJ put himself in the perfect position. But the smiles, the swagger, and the confidence back on Teague Hobbs' face, and these are the results we're getting right now. But these two that are leading the championship, and the number 15 of PJ Jacobson, and right behind him in the points championship is Matthew Schultz. Now we get a race on our hands. And we'll see with Schultz with clear track ahead of him how much lap time he's got in there, because for Schultz, he keeps going. Fastest sector of the race. It's early days. But for Teague Hobbs, he had a 1:34.536 as the fastest lap of the race so far on lap number 2. Now we'll see what these two front runners have for us.
Immediately into the 33s for the two front runners, 33.9 for both. PJ with the fastest lap, just barely over Matthew. And you think, Greg, I've watched PJ make two incredible passes in places that we don't normally see them. So he's able to get pretty creative with what he has underneath him right now. And now he's just going to go to school and try to follow and see what Matthew's doing a little bit different.
The other thing I'm seeing from PJ, Jason, I want you to keep an eye on it over the course of the race, is earlier in the season on the Panigale V2, PJ looks like he would snatch the brake lever and move the bike around going into a corner, almost that snaking into the corner. Looks like he's grabbing the brakes, but the bike is very stable and in a straight line, and that's going to allow him better feel for the bike into the corners. For Matthew Schultz, it looks like business as usual, but for PJ, the other thing, Jay, is we are not seeing the movement on acceleration that we saw yesterday. It looks a lot more planted for his Rahal Ducati Moto with Expel bike.
What you got to remember, Greg, is he was chasing yesterday. He was pushing. He was trying to close that gap. Now, when you're kind of there, especially on new tires, he can be there and he can kind of plan some things. You can see all through there, it looked like he actually closed on Matthew a little bit. And, you know, Matthew's not going to have the same kind of feel as yesterday. When he comes by his pit board, he's going to see +0 probably for quite a few laps. Yesterday, it was going up by almost a second a lap. So that's going to just make Matthew think a little bit more that, okay, these guys have gone to work overnight. They've made their bikes a little bit better. And PJ right now is not going to just let him breeze away. 33.8 this time for PJ Jacobson with a 33.9 for Matthew Schultz. So they're pulling away about half a second. Teague Hobbs still doing a nice job there in third place.
Now keep in mind, PJ Jacobson qualified at a 33.588. So he's only a couple ticks off of where he was in qualifying on Saturday morning in similar conditions. Now it is a bit warmer today than it was yesterday during qualifying, but PJ showing that these Dunlop tires can take that heat, take that punishment. With 12 laps to go in this race, the question is who's got the better setup. We know these two can do it. The other thing too, Jay, is that Matthew's not really getting away from Teague Hobbs. But by the way, it looks like Tyler Scott is on a bit of a resurgence right now. And no, we got a rider down.
Let's see who that is. Is that Vandal, maybe? Yes.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep. So, rider up and okay, which is good. But yeah, it's nice seeing these two. These are the two guys that are just kind of have separated themselves from the field of the championship. And they're doing the exact same thing here at Brainerd in race 2. But I think for PJ, this is going to give him a lot of confidence. He was able to make his way through people a little bit quicker. He was very upbeat when I talked to him. And, you know, I think that he's not worried about things. He's still got a nice little haul of 20 points yesterday. And Greg, you can see, it almost looks like PJ's just kind of watching at the moment, hanging out, and seeing what Matthew's doing. The lap time's 33.9, 33.8 again for PJ. So, continuously, but look how fast. Matthew's actually really fast through that turn 1 area, and then PJ kind of is able to draft and get closer as they go into turn 2. And you can hear the rev limiters, can't you?
Yeah, you certainly can. And I'm looking at the two behind them as well, battling it out on the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki's. Teague Hobbs still leads Ty Scott, but Ty Scott able to go the fastest sector 1 time of his race so far. Now 33.8 for PJ, 33.9 for Schultz, and for the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki pairing, right around that 34.2. So they are losing a little bit of ground per lap as the front two, these two, start to eke away now with about a 2-second gap between themselves and third place.
Yeah, and all down through here, yeah, these are the places where Matthew's really excelled. I think being a little bit taller guy, he's able to throw this R6 around a little bit. And I think that he's also talked about he's come off a superbike. So when you come off a superbike, you jump on a little R6, it's got to feel a little bit more like a toy to him. Teague Hobbs, see Corey Alexander's now got onto the back of those Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzukis in front of him. And Corey made some pretty significant changes this morning. Lengthened the bike a little bit, changed gearing up a little bit. Ultimately, they ended up going the opposite direction, Greg, for the race. So Corey's out there on a setup he hasn't actually raced on or ridden on. he's out there just kind of throwing the dice at it.
Yeah, but also what he's doing is lap after lap, he's starting to get more used to it, the way the bike is set up, as Schultz goes 33.761 for the fastest lap of the race so far, and that was matched by PJ at a 33.9. But Teague Hobbs goes the best lap of his race at a 34.3, so still a half a second slower than our leader. But here comes Corey Alexander, and although these two Suzuki GSXR 750s have a plan for themselves, Corey might throw a wrench in there and foil it all for them, because he is absolutely ripping and getting used to that setup each corner of this race. Left part of your screen is our scoring pylon done by sector time, so you can keep an eye on your favorite race. You can see that Jake Lewis has drifted to 6th with Mesa back there. Kayla Yakov coming off the best dry race performance from yesterday. David Anthony and Blake Davis, your top 10.
Yeah, this battle for third is going to continue to get heated, because it's only a matter of time before Ty Scott takes a shot at his teammate, and you won't need a second opportunity for Corey if he can sneak through as well. But you know, the two out front still running those fast times. You see them come out of here, little kink back there. A lot of riders just kind of touch that dirt every now and then, Greg. And then this is the turn yesterday that got Ty Scott, and a little bit of a bump right in the middle of that one as well.
That's
good look at Corey here.
That's turn number 12. They're going to flick it back over to turn 13. And after this right-hander, down toward basically the end of the straightaway is where the start-finish line is. You can see where that was the grid where they started, and they just went over that line in a 33.731 again for Matthew Schultz, lowering the fastest lap of the race. But here comes, oh, I thought it was Corey Alexander for a moment.
Yeah, he had some speed there through turn 1, didn't he, Greg? Corey was just let the bike running out of there.
Let's check in with Hannah about Teague Hobbs.
Teague Hobbs definitely found some confidence yesterday, but he knows that he made some mistakes. Now that he knows where he's going to stack up, he said bike-wise he's feeling really comfortable, but mentally there's definitely some changes that he wanted to make here. Be a little bit more aggressive in these opening laps, and ultimately just make some different line choices, but also keeping those bumps in mind. That's the hardest part I think about Brainerd International Raceway, is that if this track had a different surface on it, Jay, if it was completely smooth, like one of the other tracks we go to that have been freshly paved, I think you would see a multitude of line choices here.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the layout it's a fun layout. It actually offers a lot of different varieties and things, and bike setup is key here. But with the extra bumps and some of the stuff that's out there as well, you know, I think that for Teague, I spoke to him, and that's a great report from Hannah. As you see, Kayla Yakov has now got past Stefano Mesa as well. She had her best drive result yesterday, Greg. I believe it was 7th, and that is actually the position that she is in now currently as well. So 3 Rahal bikes in the top 7 is a good look for that team at the moment. But getting back to Hannah's point for Teague Hobbs, he said the same thing to me, Hannah. He said, you know, the bike is good. We went back to our settings for the race, even though they tried some stuff this morning. And he said, ultimately, Jason, it's just me. I got to stop making these little tiny errors that I'm making. And Greg, that's just experience. I mean, the thing is you learn from that. And if you put it on the podium, even making those mistakes, it actually does give you some confidence, because you know if you don't make those mistakes, what you did on that day is repeatable the next.
Out front, Matthew Schultz continues to set the fastest laps of the race every time by. Now the number 11 has gone 33.638. PJ keeps going faster as well, but this time a 33.8. So now you've got about 7/10 of a second. And this is kind of the situation that you asked PJ about from yesterday. Could you have gone if you got there earlier? He got there earlier. But right now, whether PJ might be choosing to have this gap and not be aggressive, or if he's at his limit right now, if he is, Matthew Schultz certainly is pushing him there.
Yeah, well, I think that Matthew's bike, it comes off the corners very well, and he's got a lot of grip. Like, you see the bike, it doesn't move. That's exactly what PJ said to me. He's like, Jay, he said, when I followed him, I'd seen him on track a couple times. His bike doesn't move. It just literally grips and goes forward. And PJ was talking to me about how when his bike spins, it kind of spins a little bit sideways. So Corey Alexander taking a shot now at Ty Scott. He's going to make that pass. So he's got one of those Vision Wheel M4 GSXR 750s behind him. Now he's going to have to fend him off before he gets to turn 1. You can see Corey, pretty big frame at 6'2", 6'3", getting behind that Ducati frame. But look at how fast he is through turn 1, Greg. He really just lets that bike breathe through the middle of turn 1.
Corey Alexander, who came off of a Superbike last season, and in the last race of the season was able to podium twice the Steel Commander Superbike class. Didn't really know what he was going to do in the offseason and found himself with this outstanding ride with the Rahal Ducati Moto with roller die informing on the V2. And a lot of us chasing in the offseason because of his size. We're talking about just basically how tall he's as skinny as you like. He definitely stays in shape for racing. Oh, yeah. But we were like, how's he going to get along with such a skinny motorcycle? And Corey has really proven that he is such a versatile rider.
But again, you got a big, tall rider. And again, the bike for Corey is so small underneath him. He kind of just flicks it, throws it around. During the off season in the winter, he was riding one of these V2s at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway all throughout the winter and racing it out there. So he did get plenty of time on it. And so, you know, for Corey, talking to him last night, even today, he was really happy with the result yesterday. He said, you know, coming to Brainerd, never been one of his absolute favorite places, and but he feels really comfortable. And you can see, to me already, Greg, it looks like the changes that the team made overnight, even taking a gamble with this race, has really paid off. He's geared the bike shorter, and one of the reasons for that was so that when he goes up underneath guys, he doesn't have to just solely rely on the brakes to slow the bike down. Some of that engine braking stuff, characteristics they can do with that bike, it's going to help him. But Owen Williams has crashed here right in front of our booth, unfortunately.
Owen Williams is having a good run, well placed in the top 15. And so for Owen Williams on the Owen Williams Racing GSXR 750, it looks like he is going to be out of this race, pending, you know, being able to get that bike moved. All the while, the lead has grown to 1.2 seconds. Scults over PJ Jacobson.
And you know, when you get a guy as experienced as Matthew and being in the places he is, I'm looking out the window here, Greg, and again, I'm looking back. Oh, he closed, I don't know what. Wow, as Tamburini was in front of him, really slowing. And I think Tamburini actually knew he was a little bit wide. And yeah, Owens made a mess of that one. So
yeah, but it's a young rider.
Got some work to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, young rider. He'll definitely put that one in the bank and be thinking about that. But how about what we're seeing from Matthew Scults, Jay? This is just unbelievable. When I mentioned before, by the way, that Brainerd International in Supersport seems to be a Yamaha R6 track, keep in mind that Rocco Landers came here the first year we were here, and he did the double. He did. Josh Hayes broke the all-time race win record here at Brainerd as well on a Yamaha R6. And this track racing Yamaha R6 is phenomenal. You have that. You couple the fact that his crew chief mid-part of your screen there, Ed, and then you have the caliber of Matthew Scults, and this is the result we're getting right now.
Yeah, and all he's doing is he's just grinding out these laps, watching his pit board, watching his lap timer. This young man here, PJ Jacobson, is, as we've noted many, many times, he's a world traveler. He's been all over the place. He's got experience, and he's going to keep pushing as hard as he can. But right now, he's got to know it's going to take something pretty special today to beat Matthew Scults here at Brainerd.
And our live championship is, if the race ended now, this is the way the championship points would look. 7 coming in here between PJ and Scults, and they'd get 5 back. That's the difference between first and second. 25 for first, 20 for second, pay 16 for third, 13 for fourth. And then by 5th place, we get 11, and it goes all the way down by 1 until we get to 15th place. So this championship would leave here, and it would be 2 points heading to the Ridge in Washington. But the final spot on the podium has yet to be decided for sure. With still 4.5 laps to go, Teague Hobbs is doing an outstanding job of leaving Corey Alexander at bay for the moment. And Jay, we talked about how Corey was kind of up in the air after the race season on what he was going to do. Same thing with Teague Hobbs. It was late in the season before Teague Hobbs knew that he was going to be riding for the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team.
Yeah, and Teague's doing a really nice job for that last right-hander that they just went through. Yesterday, he was straight lining that a little bit much, and you saw a lot of guys rolling up on him in the middle of that turn. Today, it's not happening so much. So that's helping make him less vulnerable on the brakes going down into turn 12 itself. So turn 11, Teague definitely changed up his line a little bit, looks a lot more comfortable through there, but this is where Corey's excelling. Bike is really looking smooth through there, and you can see him in the draft of that GSXR 750. Very difficult place to pass, but Teague's corner speed through here is good enough, Greg, where it's making it just hard enough for Corey to get up alongside to do anything on the brakes.
And even though Corey has a draft as well, you see he's not able to make up any ground It's a very weird, you mentioned it yesterday, Jay, there is a draft in corners 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is weird because you're going through a corner, but if the riders are moving around in front of you, it's not the cleanest draft you'd get, say, out of Daytona. Look how tight Corey's able to carve his Panigale V2.
And out of this right into the next left was a place that he was kind of making one of his own yesterday. And talking to him again, that back shift that he did in there just wasn't allowing him to slow the bike down quite enough. We saw him get passed by 2 guys yesterday after he tried to make that move on Teague. So that was the reason for the gearing change today.
Teague Hobbs is leading this way. That's 3rd place. He's the number 79. Corey Alexander is the 23. And you know why he picked 23, don't you? Guy likes Michael Jordan. And then you have number 70, Ty Scott, right behind him. There's a pair of Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzukis all messing around with this Ray Hall Ducati Moto with roller, die, and forming. And Corey's got a good run on him.
He does have a good run on him. And
is he going to go up the inside?
That move.
That's a move that he made to pass Teague Hobbs, or to pass Ty Scott as well. Is it going to stick? There's no room, so there goes Corey. But now we're going to see with a draft if Teague Hobbs is able to get around Corey Alexander. We know that when he bends it through turn number 1, that he's awfully fast. And look at Hobbs trying to go around the outside. Corey still holding the inside. A lot of real estate to play with here at Brainerd International Raceway, and it's got to be Hobbs who gets the nod.
Wow, Teague just held it wide open around the outside of Corey. And it was very interesting because when Teague is leading, Corey looks like he's trying to do that to Teague. So the drafting that you talked about, it's pretty unusual that you can actually feel a draft in a corner. But going from 1 to 2, and especially even in the middle of 2, you can feel that pull you along into there. So Corey's taking 1 shot now, and you know, he'll get creative and try to come up with another spot, Greg. I mean, this race is going by so quickly. We've only got 2.5 laps to go.
The dress rehearsal, though, for Alexander is he made the pass, and he was able to get 3rd place at the line, which is all that matters on this last lap. So hopefully for Alexander and his plans, he didn't play his cards too early, and hopefully for Teague Hobbs and his plan, he did.
Well, and think about what these guys are doing lap time wise. 35.0, 35.2, 34.8 for Ty Scott. So let's not forget about him sitting back there as well. As you see these guys going through, there's a yellow flag there. But the other thing you got to remember, Greg, the guy up front, his fastest lap of the race is a 33.5 for Matthew, and he's just gone 33.7, still with 3 to go. Look at Teague. See, that's racecraft right there. That's the kind of stuff where that's going to thwart the effort of Corey Alexander to go back up underneath him again. So he's kind of letting Corey know, fooled me once there, but now I learned from that, and I'm not going to let you do it again.
And Teague Hobbs made it work for that lap. And now with 2 to go, he's got that in his portfolio of knowledge. And Teague still getting a lot out of that Dunlop rear tire as they continue to drive through this very fast section 1, 2, and into 3. And by the way, it's in between 2 and 3, kind of where we are now, where our speed traps hit. And we can see that Corey Alexander, 140.2 mile per hour, 141 in that 2-bike draft that the 70 has. Teague Hobbs pushing his own air, 140.
He looks back and he sees Ty Scott. The worst part for Ty is he's got a guy in front of him that's pretty good on the brakes, is Corey. And he rolls through the corners quickly. So Ty's got to try to make a committed pass into turn 3, but he's got to get up alongside of him earlier and then kind of almost block Corey. Because if he doesn't quite get that nose up to at least Corey's rear wheel, Corey's just going to be breaking in there even deeper. So, Greg, we're going to have 1 lap to go this next time by. Teague is just grinding out these middle laps. Look at Ty Scott just rolled up underneath Corey in the middle of that long right-hand corner. So, great move from Ty. Now Teague's going to have some problems with his teammate right behind him.
This is the battle for 3rd as we take a look at our leader, who's got a 3-second lead over 2nd place, P.J. Jacobson. So white flag out now, 1 lap to go for Matthew Skoltz to do the double. Jacobson comes across the stripe at a 34.8. So now here's the battle, and it looks like, yep, Corey Alexander was able to get around Teague Hobbs.
Well, Teague Hobbs got passed by Ty Scott in turn 12. Ty got a great run out of 11. So Ty Scott in 1 lap goes from 5th to 3rd. You're going to see this pass, Greg. He laid off late, but I believe he's probably going to run just a little bit right and take Teague out there with him. And that's going to allow Corey to sneak up underneath. You see, he got out on the rumble strips, did Teague.
Teague's fighting back right now. The 79, no, he can't get it done. So Corey Alexander and Ty Scott and Teague Hobbs are this close for the final spot on the podium on this last lap at Brainerd International Raceway in Supersport. And Alexander had a notion, but nearly got his nose sawed off there. Only a couple corners to go in this final lap. All the while, Matthew Schultz has set sail at 4 seconds now, the lead between him and PJ Jacobsen. Those 2 spots on the podium look secure as we keep our eyes on this battle for third.
Yeah, and it's really, Corey just got nabbed right here the last time through. Ty Scott ran that tight line like he's doing right now and snuck up underneath the 23, and that is really going to be costly, I think, for Corey, because, Ty Scott gets out of shape pretty big there. Now we're going to see through this next fast right. Corey's just a little bit too far back at the moment.
You got a good run, though.
He's having a run.
So here comes Corey Alexander. He's going to slam the brakes on. There goes Corey up the inside. He's going to be able to get it stopped for third place as Schultz wins the race. And PJ comes back. Alexander with a tight line. Now it's going to be the big drag race for the final spot on the podium. It's a V2 versus a GSXR 750. Ty Scott with a good run. And he'll,
Says Corey. It says Corey Alexander on our screen.
Says Corey Alexander over Ty Scott and Teague Hobbs. I'm not sure. We're going to have to go look at the photo finish. But all the while, doing the business on the Strack Racing Yamaha R6 is the number 11, Matthew Schultz, who takes a commanding victory. This is third place, and it is Corey Alexander.
Wow.
By half a bike length or less. So your podium is going to be Matthew Schultz. What a dominating weekend for him. Very impressive. 133.546, your fastest lap of the race. From second place on the grid to double victory and 2 back-to-back races with the largest margin of victory we've seen in Supersport this season. 4.4 seconds over PJ Jacobsen. And Jason, you cannot discount what a fight PJ tried to put up, but it was just 2/10 here, 3/10 there, that allowed that 4.4 second gap.
Yep, no question. And this guy just rode superb all weekend long. He didn't put a wheel wrong, did he, Greg? All the time that he was out there. The only time I saw him frustrated was in qualifying when he lost out just to Ty Scott by a couple tenths. But I mean, these are the races. This is what pays the points and the prize money for him. So he's going to be pretty happy with that.
And from our perspective, we love having a championship go another round with only 2 points the difference.
How about this guy? Comes back from that big crash that we saw at Barber. Wasn't even sure if he was going to make this race. I think he had, I think they had the ridge kind of circled on the calendar for Corey Alexander, and did his rehab. Obviously the team put a good bike underneath him today with some of the changes that they made, and finds himself on the podium.
And Ray Hall goes 2-3. When we come back, we're going to talk to Matthew Schultz and find out how he dealt with the pressure of PJ.
We'll continue with live coverage here on MotoAmerica Live Plus from Brainerd International Raceway. Jamie Howe joined by Roger Hayden. And Roger, as we were watching that race unfold, one of the first things you said was PJ is being aggressive early.
Yeah, kind of different. Like he said yesterday, felt like he got shuffled back early on. And looked like he just wanted to make the passes and try to control the race, but Matt was just on fire. And, you know, when you're battling a guy that like Matt that's just so fast this weekend, you want to get right behind him as soon as possible and not let him make that break, and PJ was able to do that, but Matt just had incredible pace. You know, we were watching that second qualifier Saturday morning, and we kept talking about the laps that Matt was putting in, you know, just the laps. His qualifying laps were all backed up. He went in on a 4 or 5 lap run there in that second qualifier, and we thought then, man, he's going to be tough to beat, and he was able to carry that over to the race.
Yeah, he's just able to put his head down and just ride and be in a league of his own. You saw Peter Strack over there to congratulate him as Corey Alexander landing on the podium. That was a great race for Corey. We mentioned it his first weekend back. He's had to sit out back at MotoAmerica after an injury that he suffered back at Barber Motorsports Park. So for him to be able to come back and come back strong, this is a good weekend for him.
Yeah, really good weekend. 2 solid races for Corey. And coming back from that injury, and he even mentioned on one of the interviews, you know, he's kind of scared to crash, you know, on that hip. So to come here and put that solid ride on, he had those 2 M4 riders trying to gang up on him, but Corey was able to really be defensive that last lap and hold his line. But to come back from an injury and miss a race, it's got to be a great feeling.
And you see Graham Rahal down there able to celebrate with his team. It's his first weekend that he's been able to come out here and see what is happening on the MotoAmerica side of the Rahal Racing programs. He's been committed to his IndyCar program, and with the weekend off, even though it is Father's Day, he has 2 little girls back at home with him and waiting for him. But he chose to come out here and watch this, and he got to see his riders finish on the podium. PJ with a double podium this weekend, Corey Alexander right there as well. It looks like everybody's made their way over, so let's send it back to Hannah, Greg, and Jason.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
This is what you live for, coming into victory lane, greeting your team and your team owner with a big W and a dominating performance. And it was done a little bit differently than it was yesterday. And I think you can kind of see Matthew asking, where'd PJ finish? 2nd place. But this is how you see it, as we saw it. 4.4 seconds to margin of victory with PJ there. And then Corey Alexander, what a battle between himself, Ty Scott, Teague Hobbs in 5th, Jake Lewis in 6th, David Anthony, Kayla Yakov in 8th place over Mesa. Let's get right down to Hannah, who has our winner.
Matthew Scholes does the double here at Brainerd, and perhaps not the jump off the line that he would have hoped for. PJ Jacobson putting pressure on you a little bit longer today than we saw yesterday. How were you able to maintain that lead? Did you have to change any of your lines?
No, I mean, yesterday I was kind of able to stick in the low 33s. I don't know why today I could only kind of stay in the 33.7s. Whenever I tried to brake the same as I did yesterday, I was kind of running deep. I could feel the front smushing more. So I kind of have to go and look at the data and see if I was trying to brake too hard or what I was doing wrong. But overall, to grab the double here, it feels great. Closed up the championship lead onto PJ there. Well done to Corey and PJ. I know these guys are going to be chasing me the rest of the season. Overall, thank you to the Strack Racing team. They've been awesome. The R6 is handling well, and looking forward to going to the Ridge next. It's a pretty good track for me, and hopefully we can put some pressure on PJ and take the lead there.
Congratulations, Matthew Scholes, today's race winner, guys.
Can you imagine how good this bike's going to work at the Ridge as well, especially with a rider that's like happy about going to the Ridge, and that's a good smooth track with a lot of elevation changes, and it's super fun. And boy, Matthew's going to be thinking about this. And the good news is it's only about 11 days away before we're there. Let's get back down to Hannah.
40 points, a collective haul for PJ Jacobson with 2 second-place finishes. You held on to the championship points lead here this weekend just by 2. What, if anything, was missing this weekend?
Yeah, you know, I knew that this team over here would be pretty strong this weekend. You know, Josh Hayes was really fast here on the bike last year, so I knew it was going to be very, very difficult. And everyone said this bike, you know, is very difficult at this racetrack. But I think it is. But I think, you know, you can still go fast. I just kind of had a drop off in the race there. It was a lot less than yesterday, so we found some things overnight and stuff. So I was pretty proud of my team. They did a great job. But you know, thanks to all the teams, XPEL, Roller Die, ELF, AME, Avon Aero, Supply, RNG, my whole entire team, Graham for coming out here between his IndyCar races. It's great to have him supporting this whole program. So, yeah, I just want to, you know, thank my whole entire Rahal Ducati Moto team. They've done a great job, especially on my side. They've done a great job putting the package together. So, yeah, we'll just take this back and try to improve for the Ridge.
Great job this weekend, PJ. Guys.
Yeah, and of course, you know, one of the things too is that every time we leave this, Jay, being healthy is important, because we started this run where it's like Road-America week off, Brainerd week off, Ridge week off, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Yeah. It's important to get points, and it's important to stay healthy.
And this bike's gonna work really well, I think, for him at the Ridge as well. It's gonna be smoother. The Ducati, as we know, has struggled with some of the bumps, and I think that's what PJ was alluding to, but I think the Ridge will be good. Hannah.
Rounding out our podium from the Rahal Ducati Moto team, Corey Alexander, after nearly getting on the podium yesterday, redemption today. It played out a little bit differently there, and you had some Suzukis to fend off. Tell us how you got it done.
Yeah, I mean, I really owe it to my crew, Steve Weir, Mike Himmelsbach, Richie, DJ Tim. You know, yesterday I feel like I gave that everything I had, especially coming back after a little bit of an injury. You know, I feel like I left it all out there, but at the same time, I didn't really have anything left with the bike to try to make a move there at the end. And so we made some changes last night, and thankfully they paid off. It just gave me a little bit more ability to pass, and that was the biggest thing, because otherwise, you know, those Suzuki's off the corners, I got to get a real good run to stay with them. As you can see, that last lap, I just did everything I could to stay tight, and I honestly didn't know if I was on the box until we rolled into pit lane. So, like I said, thanks to the whole Roller Die, XPEL, Rahal Ducati Moto team. You know, it's really awesome to do this for Graham. Obviously, it's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day, Dad. My little brother's birthday was last week, so happy birthday, Ryan. And Kaylin, just everybody at home for cheering me on and supporting me these last few weeks. My personal sponsors, Sal's Pizza, Defile Odds, RAR Racing, Detail Doctor, Prestige Services Group, JLS Mechanical. There's a lot of people that support me. I really, really love all you guys, and I appreciate it.
And they are all very happy for you. Corey Alexander rounding out your Supersport podium, guys.
Sal's Pizza.
Yeah, that's to your tone right there, isn't it, old Sal's Pizza.
There's a look at Graham Rahal standing next to, who's the guy on the right? The Spees kid.
Yeah,
the AMA Hall of Fame guy, Ben Spees, in there, hanging out, talking to his team owner. We'll have more coverage in Supersport from Brainerd International Raceway in a moment.
We're to stay with you here on MotoAmerica Live Plus as we will watch all of these Supersport riders make their way up to the podium and collect the trophies. But Roger, as I was listening to Matthew Skoltz there in that winter interview, it is amazing the amount of information that he is processing after just coming off of the bike, already wondering why he wasn't able to do the same lap times as consistently.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. To win a race, dominate a race by 4.5 seconds, and the first thing he thinks about is, you know, how can I improve? What was I doing different? And he wants to know. So when he moves on to the next track and in the race, and he's feeling the same thing, he can kind of go back to this and be like, okay, I was braking too hard, or, you know, I wasn't braking as hard, whatever it is, and you can correct it.
We also heard Corey Alexander, all of the support that he's gotten over the last couple of weeks, of course, going back to him recovering from that injury and being back out here and getting to celebrate a podium finish. He also had a 4th place finish yesterday. And for PJ Jacobsen, another solid result, closing that championship points gap down. It's going to get exciting. Let's go back next door.
Celebrations from Brainerd International Raceway here in Brainerd, Minnesota. Beautiful vacation spot this time of year, and you get to throw into this racetrack a MotoAmerica Supersport Race. There's all kinds of stories that are going on, and Hannah's got one of them.
Ty Scott was 4th by just a half a bike length at the line right there. Really great battle with your own teammate and Corey Alexander. Take us through it. How was that bike feeling underneath you as those laps wound down?
Yeah, the whole Vision Wheel M4XR Suzuki team did an amazing job overnight reloading the bike from a mistake I made yesterday in the race. Crashed out early, unfortunately, but overall today we had a really good feeling this morning going into the race. Felt really good. Just wanted to be at the front group. And PJ and Schultz kind of got away at the beginning, so I was battling with Corey and Teague and just really struggling with the front end throughout the corner, but we're improving each weekend, time in, time again. And it's a transition. You see just all Superbike guys on the podium, and going forward into the next rounds, we're going to have a lot more in the bike, a lot more in the team, and we're going to come out swinging harder, and we're going to move them faster.
Thank you so much, Ty Scott. 4th place today, guys.
Yeah, Hannah, he makes a great point. Those 3 guys in front of him are all very experienced riders, you know, all Superbike riders from last year. So for Ty, it's great because it's really going to help him great to show where he measures up against these guys. And it's a nice little bounce back ride for him today, struggling a little bit. You could even see in that replay there was some chatter in the front of that motorcycle. So they'll be good at Ridge. He'll regroup, and that whole team will. They'll be strong up there.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be fun to check that out as Matthew Skoltz continues to enjoy the spoils of the win. We'll be back to Brainerd after this.
We are still with you here on MotoAmerica Live Plus as you are looking out live at the grid getting set for Steel Commanders Superbike. They will be the next class that's going to take to the racetrack, Roger. And to Ty Scott's point, as you saw that look on his face as he was looking up at the podium, he said those are all Superbike riders that are up there. We've got to push them harder.
Yeah, and the thing is, he mentioned about the pace being hotter this year, and a lot of that is Matt and PJ and Corey, Superbike guys that are Superbike race winners and podium guys consistently come in here and then, you know, go to Supersport, and they bring that level that's at Superbike down into the Supersport class, and it's going to raise the game to everybody else to try to match those 3 guys.
So we're looking at these live shots around the racetrack right now. I'm seeing something that we haven't seen since Friday, and the sun is out now, shining on the racetrack.
Yeah, the sun's out. It's going to start getting warm again, so the track temperature is going to, you know, you go back to yesterday morning and all day and yesterday's race, and this morning track temperatures were a little bit down, and riders made their changes to around that. So you might want to look at those track temperatures and might go back to what you had on Friday when the track's going to be a lot warmer, because you know, you can tell when the sun's out, you can see what it's doing in the back of that shot on the asphalt. Track temperature is going to come up quick.
If you're here at Brainerd International Raceway, or if you've been watching our coverage all afternoon, you might remember that every other category this weekend has been a quick start. But here for Steel Commander Superbike, we will get the full pre-race ceremony that we're accustomed to, as the riders are now out on the racetrack on their sighting lap, getting over to their grid position so we can begin the opening ceremonies. You saw very quickly there on the screen that number 28 from Tytler Cycle BMW, Troy Herfoss, on the bike this weekend. He made his Superbike debut yesterday. We'll see if he can move up through the pack. But with more of the coverage for Supersport to wrap that up, we're going to send it back to Greg and Jason.
So an overhead look at Brainerd International Raceway as race 2 for Supersport is done and dusted. And Jay, as far as I'm concerned, it's a totally different moment in time, because the clouds all of a sudden have parted and the sun is out. And I know that the Supersport riders would have enjoyed that, as well as Dunlop, because when you put heat in the track,
everything gets a little better.
Everything gets better,
unless it gets
the tires.
too hot.
Yeah, well, yeah. But the question is, moving forward in this championship, our next stop is we have next weekend off, and then we're at the Ridge. Then we have a week off. Then we go to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Let's talk about the Ridge really quickly, because you want to talk about a dramatically different layout of a racetrack. A lot of elevation changes up there. The track surface is newer. It's relatively smooth. And, of course, we're in a totally different part of the country. What are you seeing looking forward in the Supersport class for our front runners?
I think it's going to be a really good track for Corey Alexander. He's done well there in the past in some of our other classes, and I think it's going to suit his style, being tall. That said, Matthew's going to be very difficult as well on the R6. I think for PJ, it's a place that he's never really loved, but I think he's going to be better on this bike. And you know, when you look at what today brought and Matthew this weekend, he was just a little bit untouchable. He kind of was like PJ in Atlanta. And we look here at the race 2 highlights. It really didn't matter where Matt got off to start. He was able to put that R6 anywhere, and you see the 2 Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki's up front early, and then the R6 starts making its way through. He wasn't as quick yesterday. PJ Jacobson making some really uncharacteristic passes in places that you normally wouldn't see, but I think that's his racecraft and what he's been able to do. Even here, this is a very gnarly place to pass. PJ made that work. He knew he had to get to the front. This battle for third went all the way down to this moment. As you can see, Corey was trying to race with these 2 guys the best he could. I think the changes that team made for him overnight were good. Ty Scott slid up underneath Corey, and with a lap to go, it looked like Corey might have to be 5th, but it was this move Ty Scott put on his teammate, opened the door for Corey, and a lap later, Corey did the same thing to Ty Scott through the bridge there. Matthew Schultz goes on and wins. PJ gets those 20 valuable points, and the guy comes right off the injured reserve list, Corey Alexander. He finds himself on the podium here as well.
His second of the season, and job well done for Corey. So here's what's happened in the championship. Only 2 points separate PJ Jacobson from Matthew Schultz as we head off to the Ridge in about 11 days' time. Well, we certainly hope you enjoyed our coverage of MotoAmerica Supersport from Brainerd International Raceway. It's June 28th through the 30th at the Ridge in Shelton, Washington. Better come visit us. If not, watch us where you're watching us right now. For Hannah and Jason, I'm Greg. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you from Washington.
Yes, sir.